start with is the lifetime value of your properties, because when you actually understand this, I think it changes the way that I think you look at how you're investing and maybe what you're willing to offer, which I'm going to come on to a program that I've designed to hopefully help us speed up our acquisition flow with estate agents. But in the main, you know, if we work out that the average net profit from a rent to rent is about 500 a month, which is obviously £6,000 a year. Now, it costs, you know, anywhere from probably 3.5 to 6 grand to set these things up. So ideally, you know, you're 0 to probably 9 to 10 months, worst case scenario is your payback period that most people are currently running this model on. Now, the beauty of this starts to like really change when you start looking at the average length of tenancy. So on average, and this is like not just my data, this is like data from all different locations around the world that are doing this type of model, is about 8 years. So every property that you take on is effectively, you know, you're going to keep for about 8 years. And, you know, I'd like to say that that's true because I know, but I don't, because obviously we've not been in business for 8 years in this industry. But, you know, certainly from my experience of how much we've given back over the years that we've been doing it, which is, you know, almost 4 now, it is a very small percentage. So I would say that these numbers are very, you know, realistic, and obviously the data is there. So when you actually look at, you know, what one acquisition is to you as a business over the lifetime value, you know, you're looking at 48,000 net profit. So like one unit is worth 48 grand to your business over, you know, that 8 year period. So, you know, by thinking bigger on the numbers, you then say, well, how much are you willing to give away to acquire a unit? Because that's how much a unit's worth to you. Whereas I think a lot of the time we do think a bit too much in sort of payback periods and monthlies. And you know, I've been sort of probably my own worst enemy on this front as well, especially with sourcing fees and things like that. But you know, when you start looking at the lifetime value of this, then you know it's a bit of a game changer, really, because you know you're quite happy to say, well, I could actually pay someone 10 grand, still going to make 38 grand out of that one property, you know, on average. Now there will be a bit of churn, don't get me wrong. You will have, you know, not every unit will drop off, but I think really you're probably somewhere in the region of about 5% per year maximum loss, maybe 10. You know, the only properties that I've handed back are ones where we probably shouldn't have taken them on in the first place. So one was on a bad estate and the kids kept putting the windows through because they didn't like Airbnb. So, you know, again, just shouldn't have taken that on. The others were, there's 2 more, which I've given back. One is a bigger house and the landlord wanted to put his rent up, but then wouldn't do anything to the property. The kitchen needed doing, it needed new carpets, this walls are falling apart. So some of the floorboards had gone and he just wouldn't do anything. So we give that back. And we've had one taken off us in Dubai where the landlord again just wanted stupid amounts of rent. So we just said, you know, take it back so it doesn't stack. So that's off the top of my head as far as I can think that we've actually given back on from our rent to rent portfolio. So, you know, you're talking a very small percentage of the portfolio that we've given back. And all the rest of them are still kind of, you know, ticking along and you know, picking out this sort of number on average. You know, some are less, some are more, but on average, you are around that sort of £500 a month mark. And, you know, at the end of it all, you know, each one is worth 48 grand. So now it's kind of like, right, well, how many 48 grands do we want? You know, that's kind of the way that you should really be looking at your stock. And then you say, well, you know, how much can we give away? And then, you know, if you even build this into a different model, it's a case of saying, well, how many people can I, you know, employ to get me lots of 48 grands. Because, you know, if you're paying someone, if you're paying someone, let's say, even if you're paying them 50 grand a year as a salary, and they brought on, 25 deals, which is, just over 2 a month. What's the lifetime value of that's going to be, if anyone's a whiz at maths and much quicker than me, then let me know. But it's 1.2 million. So you're giving 50k to that guy to get you 1.2 million quid's worth of revenue. And I know a lot of it will come down to like cash flow and where you're sort of at the minute, and obviously there's training and things like that. But even for your own self, if you say to yourself, well, if I can get 25 units next year, that's actually worth 4.2 million to me over the lifetime of the business. And then and then you kind of get to pump it in. So and that's kind of what we're going to look at today is very much just like, how can we find the units, because ultimately they are worth so much to to the businesses. So so that's kind of what I wanted to go over the lifetime value side of things, and then now it's a case of like knowing what your numbers are to actually achieve that result. So for every channel, what I want you to kind of build out, might look like if you get your computers up and just open up like a Google spreadsheet or a spreadsheet, and we'll just start building this out, and then you can kind of plug your data into it over time. You work your percentages out, but ultimately it's like how many properties do we want, and then it's kind of working the numbers back. But then it's also taking it into the different types of flow. So for example, I know that our Facebook leads convert right now at about 2%. Okay, so if we have 500 leads going into the system, then that's going to get us 10 deals a month. Now, at the minute, 500 leads, it could be costing us, let's say, worst case scenario, £5 a lead. So what's that, 2.5 grand? So it's cost us 2.5 grand just for the advertising costs to get those 500 leads. Then you see I've got staff costs of maybe, I don't know, 4 grand by the time you pay commissions and all that sort of stuff, maybe a bit more. So, the total, then you've probably got phone lines and things like that. So let's just say, we'll add another 500 quid on there. So we've got 7 grand it's costing us to get 10 deals. But those 10 deals are worth 480k to the business. So it's worth spending 2.5 grand on Facebook ads to get it done. But I know that because we're at 2%. I know that our LinkedIn reach is a similar sort of number, 2%. But I know that our the organic traffic that comes through the website is a much higher percent. That's about a 10% conversion rate. The downside of this is you can't, like with Facebook leads, you can just turn the ad spend up and get more leads. So if I want 500 leads, I can get 500 leads. If I want 1,000 leads, I can get 1,000 leads. With organic, it's a slower process. So the leads are increasing month by month, but I can't just go, oh, I need 500 organic leads now, because, you've got to SEO, you've got to blog, you've got to, write content and get all that through. But the idea is that you need to know exactly what your activity channels are and what they perform at and convert at. And then basically you want to work the numbers back over. So if you want 1 deal a month, what's the activity that you need to be doing? So we've already spoke previously about things like number of viewings leads to number of offers, leads to, number of deals. And for me, at the beginning, it was very much 25 booked viewings a week led to about 19 actual viewings, which led to about 11 offers, which led to a deal. Obviously, as I got better and more experienced, I went for less viewings because I was viewing better properties that I knew would work, and the conversion rate got better. But now it's a case of like plugging, that was me just on open rent and doing all the outbound stuff. But it's like, what inbound stuff can you do to make it a bit easier as well. And I am going to come up this afternoon about what we can do as the franchisor to help you guys get more lead flow. But there is a very much a cost analysis, and as you can see, like the profit margin is huge from what you're spending versus what your actual end outcome is. Even if you lost 10 or 20% of that through properties going back, you're still in a very healthy margin for what you spend. So there could even be an argument to say, well, is it worth taking a loan to pay that? And even if you added 8% onto that over 36 months, that's going to end up being, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 grand, but you're still going to earn yourself 480k. So it's just looking at a way that we're leveraging different avenues. But the main thing that you've got to start doing, because I do want to start channeling leads at you, but what we need to know is it's not just a case of like you've got to know your data. If you don't know what your conversion rates are, you can never work it back. And it's the same for your viewings. Like you should know now, like how many viewings you're going on to get a deal. And then if you say, right, well, we've now got a bit of money to get 3 deals. Well, I need to go on X number of viewings and I know I'm getting those 3 deals, rather than just kind of pie in the sky. But again, you bring it back. It's not just about how many viewings you're going on. It's how many leads do you need to generate outbound, and how many leads do you need to generate inbound, or a bit of both. I.e., how many messages do I need to open on Facebook chat this week to get 3 deals, or how many estate agent calls do I need to do? Because you should have all your different elements tracked in a spreadsheet. So, and then you can literally work your conversions out, and the averages will come out of it. I'm writing the business plan for next year as we speak, and everything in there is just like averages of everything. I've got average costs of everything, and I've got average revenues of everything of different shapes and sizes. So you can easily say, right, well, if we acquire, 20 management units per week next year, that on average, that's going to bring us X amount of money. Therefore, what staff do we need, blah, 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 because of the lead flow and all that sort of stuff. So, that's where you really need to get your business to. And I know one of the sessions that we had a while ago with, I think when Brank was here and you were here as well, we went through like numbers and knowing your numbers and understanding the importance of knowing your data. And there's a lot of people get into this industry and they don't give enough attention to their numbers and to their accounts. Frightens me that people do not know how much each property is generating and how much each property is costing them. And they just have it all in one pool and say, oh, well, I'm doing all right because my bank balance is going up. But they don't actually know that property is actually costing them £1,000 a month. And therefore they need to cut the cord on that.
So it's like best to have like a profit and loss for each property.
100%. Yeah. I mean, so in our accounts, we've got every single property. We've got all the revenue that comes in that property. We've got all of the linen costs, the cleaning costs, the consumables, the maintenance, the resolution payments, absolutely everything for every single month of every single year since the day it started. And that then allows not only me to analyze it better, but we know that property hasn't performed for the last 3 months. We have a meeting with the senior management once a month. We call it a problem property meeting. And if we see a property that's performing month on month badly, then we look at it. What's the images like? What's the reviews like? What's the current condition of it like? Is there anything we can do? Do we need to get rid of it? So we go through those, because if you don't, you could end up thinking, all right, well, I'm making money each month, so great. But you don't know that one's actually costing you 20 grand a year, and you could actually be making 20 grand more by just getting rid of it. Serve your notice, give 3 months, see you later, get out. Or do a deal with the landlord and say, there's 5 grand, see you later. So you've got to know, and this is where, with your accountancy softwares, why we give you like the nominal codes of like the chart of accounts on Xero should be plugged in from the accountant. So you have like all your different elements of where your money's getting spent. All you have to do is just create the properties. And then basically every transaction that goes in, you go, right, that's for XYZ street. And that was the maintenance cost done. That's for X. And then you can have a report at the end of the month that just basically says that property P&L, that property P&L. And obviously you can analyze. I tend to focus more on the problem ones. When you've got hundreds, it's difficult to kind of go through each one, but what really stands out is low performing or minuses. I have spreadsheets that color code them. So I have like a certain revenue range that I want to earn. So like anything less than 1,200 is red. Anything between 1,200 and 2 grand is orange, and anything over 2 grand is green. For the majority of the properties, the hotels are different. So each month the data goes into my spreadsheet from the revenue side, and then it'll show me all the reds. So when I get to about the 10th of the month, I look and say, right, which ones are still in the red? Because right now they need to move into the orange quite quickly, you know, and if you're at the 15th of the month and they're still in red, then you've got a bit of a problem that month with that property. But obviously, if they've got green or orange quite early doors, you don't really need to give them that much attention. They're probably going to make profit that month, and you can kind of let them go and just ride. So that's how I'm a bit off the beaten track here, but that's definitely, you know, it's important to note that you should 100% have everything tracked within your business. I mean, you should be. The only thing as you grow is that you can't really allocate against properties is things, you know, depending on how you run them, but like your staff costs or office costs or, you know, things like that. But at the minute, the majority of your businesses are very much just, that's the property, it's me, and that's the cost for those properties. And, you know, for you guys as well, it's even easier because, you know, you just get one statement a month, then you get one payout a month. You know, for us, we have to track every single booking of every single property, every single cleaning of every single property. You know, that in itself takes 3 accountants, you know, so like that is a huge advantage to you guys. And really, you should not be not tracking stuff because it is simple. Month, when you get your statements, you just go like 70 Chandler Street, right? That's the revenue, that was the cleaning, that was the linen, and you just bang it in and then it's done. And then over time, you can pull like a 3-month report, a 6-month report, a year-to-date report, and it'll say, right, that's done that profit, or that's done that profit, or the claim. But what's really good about being on top of your numbers is like now, like say, well, actually Josh did it the other day, he rang me and he said, what's the average revenue for a property in, I can't remember the street, because we've got one on that street already. And I just went 26.52. He's like, right, perfect, works. So then we make the offer because we're confident in it. We've got data, we've got real data. Or we'll say like, okay, well, we've got, you know, a 5-bed house in, you know, whatever, in Birmingham, that's, you know, potentially they're wanting, I don't know, 2 grand a month rent for. Well, we go, right, well, we've got 3 5 beds on average, they've done X, Y, Z, and that's the net profit. And we're paying that rent. So we can, it helps you make better decisions as well. It's like using obviously Air DNA and all that sort of stuff. But you make more confident decisions knowing that the data is pretty good and you've got that real-time data. But if you just have all your income coming in and all your expenses going out and you don't really allocate it to anything, then you're going to end up in a bit of a tizzle later on. So what really you've got to get on top of, you know, just coming back to this, the lifetime value is evident that, you know, we're going to make a lot of money if we acquire deals. So it's really important that we're constantly acquiring deals. You know, you can even say that, you know, and again, I'm a bit, you know, I hate paying for furniture finance because I just see like 7.5 grand over the lifetime and it costs me 3.5. But, you know, even if I've took all that in, like if I've got no money and I need to do that, I'm still going to earn like 48 grand out that deal. So is it worth giving an extra 3-4 grand away? Of course it is, you know. So obviously you want to try and make as much as you can out of them and make sure that on a monthly basis they're making as much profit as possible. But if you know, for the first 3 years you're only making 250 quid because you got 250 quid finance to furniture, whatever, investor payments, things like that, fine. After the 3-year period, you're going to get another 5 years of 500 quid a month. So your 48 grand might drop to 38, you know, but it's still 38 grand extra into your business that you didn't have yesterday and you would like today. So it's just a different way of like totally looking at how you fund things, how you acquire stock, and you know what I'm going to come on to with how we're actually then going to, you know, work, I think, with the right people on. So let me just get rid of this. And then I'm gonna pop into the coffee chat this referral program that I've put together.
You got Wi-Fi password?
Good question. Bear with me a second and I will get Josh. Right, so I'll just send you what I'm calling the Realtor Referral Program. So we've already launched this and had quite a lot of success with it. So again, coming back to what it is, I'm going to go through it. Try not to read it because it'll distract you. But in essence, what I've done is, you know, at the end of the day, real estate agents have got the stock, they've got the landlords, they've got the connections. So whilst they are difficult to penetrate on the front end, it's because we're not really adding any value to them as a business. So thinking about what we've just discovered with the kind of lifetime value of a rent-to-rent unit, I've created a program that is what I think very lucrative for real estate agents, and they also are agreeing based on the response. So what I've basically said is they will get 20% net profit of everything for the lifetime value of that property. So if we break it down, on average, a real estate agent will give you 25 deals a year. So for them, if we work on the fact that each deal is worth 500 net profit, they're going to be getting £100 per month or £1,200 per year for each and every unit that they give you. So effectively 25 units is worth an extra 30 grand a year to their business, or 240,000 over the lifetime value. So that brochure that I've sent is basically, I need to tweak one little bit of it and get it out to you. I need to pull the Luke Stays on rather than Luke Capital Group, and I need to change the bottom of it because it says to book a call with me, but obviously we just need to book a call with yourselves. But the idea is that, you know, we're selling this idea to the agents that we can actually help you make an extra 240,000 on your bottom line over the next 8 years by just, and that's each and every year. You know, you bring us 50, you're going to make 500,000. You know, you bring us 25 the year after, there's another 240 grand, you know. So the idea is that now, if they're clever about it, which most of the agents are, they'll also still be getting the management fees off the landlord. You know, so they're getting a win there and they're getting a win here. Now, I don't know anyone giving away that type of money. No. Because most people don't think the bigger picture, which is why I wanted to explain the bigger picture before we went into this. Because I think if I'd gone into that, you'd have all gone 20%, you know. But, you know, at the end of the day, even after VAT and tax and stuff, we're probably still netting 60% of that figure each and every month. And really, you know, they're bringing us the stock. So, you know, it is on net profit, and obviously you then need to, you know, get it funded. There is obviously the option in the brochure as well to, you know, for them to bring management clients on as well, which again, you guys, you know, we will, because we'll have to give 20% of the net profit away to the agent as kind of from our side. But we'll then honor the 5%, we'll give 5% net profit to the franchisee like yourself. So that route's probably not as attractive to you guys as it is probably to us. But at the same time, it might just help, you know, that relationship with that client. We are finding at the minute, especially in Dubai, but definitely here as well, that there's a lot more people interested in the management at the minute, whereas before they were quite open to fixed guarantee rent. I think it's just people are like my situation, just getting so sick of tenants, getting so sick of the regulations. Mortgage interest rates have gone up, the margins have been squeezed. They're now looking at alternative strategies to make more money. So for you guys, I wouldn't write it off the table. At the end of the day, it's still an extra 5% for literally doing fuck all apart from signing a contract.
I'm finding more leads for property management services actually.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, it's a mixture. I think, you know, the idea of this program is it's going to open conversations up in a different manner. But like it says this is not just, oh, here's the brochure. Do you want to sign the contract? Away you go. Like, this needs work. Like, and I think, you know, you're going to have to really, you know, first and foremost, you know, train them on how to sell it. Because, you know, you've got like you know, the sort of 15 benefits to a landlord, no voids, They need to be on your side now selling this. Or you can say to them, literally just connect us and we'll sell it. And then we'll let you know. And that's kind of the way we're trying to do it. You know, hook the team up to Slack and get them into, you know, Slack and work with their team. You know, be regular and consistent. That is the main thing. So what you want to be doing is, you know, setting up calls every week. How you getting on? You got new landlords on, you got new landlords, got any stock on a shift, how you getting on? You know, just constantly trying to work with them. You know, don't think that just because they're going to sign a contract saying, yeah, we'll send you some deals and get 20%, they're just going to give you loads of stuff. You know, by next week, if you haven't spoken to them, they'll have forgotten about you. This is very much, you know, about how we actually not only sell the program to them, but also then work with them to be able to constantly be thinking, like, you know, like I've had one agency so far who's actually setting up a full sales team just to do this because they can see the benefit in it. He's like, I'm gonna hire some staff just to focus on this for you. Yeah. So you know, so he's currently recruiting a department because he can see the value in it. Yeah. He's like, well, if I get 50 deals a year for you, that's £500,000 for me over the lifetime. It's like, you know, sky's the limit.
How many properties they would have to sell to get permission, which would
yeah.
up to that amount.
I mean, even if you look at, you know, let's say on average, well, I mean, up here it's definitely less, but let's say on average in London, the average rent's £1,000, or maybe not London, but down south, right? So they're going to get 10% fee on that. So they're only getting £100 as it is. So we're doubling. We're doubling what they're already earning from that landlord, and if they're clever, they'll still collect that £100.
What about additional properties that landlords may have? So you do a deal on the first property.
Give it to the agents. The more money you give to them, the more properties they're going to give you. This is the whole like mindset shift that needs to happen. Like, don't get greedy with this. Yeah, if a landlord comes direct and says, I've got 300 properties, great. The agent still gets paid on all 300. Yeah. Don't cut them off, you know, because you cut them off, you lose it, you know, and we've just shown like what the lifetime value is of it. So if they can constantly bring you a flow of stock for the sake of 20%, it's worthwhile keeping him with that agent.
Today I was offering a saucer 1 month's rent to be introducing the idea.
Yeah.
But if that landlord happens to have 5 properties, then I said, well, you have 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. Sources, same thing. You can give this program sources. The only thing I would say about this program is be careful who you give it to, because I think it's that good that quite quickly other SA operators will start jumping on it. Because in that document, it details exactly the lifetime value and So it's quite easy for them to replicate it. You know, once the switch flips in their head, they'll know that it's worth doing. But at the same time, you know, you don't necessarily need to give them the brochure if you don't want, but I think with the right people and the trusted people, we'll get enough business from it. But again, it's about building this into part of your prospecting script, or your prospecting activity. So whilst you're going to be, you know, trying to do your direct to landlord stuff, you need to now allocate a bit of time for agency stuff. So I'm going to come on to it later on, how we've been using LinkedIn Sales Navigator to do this, and we've had some great results from it. So, but it's about, you know, getting the brochure into them, but then follow up. And then once they are signed up, then, because it's a bit like the investment thing we talked about, where, you know, you actually want to get them to sign and pledge funds. It's the same with this. You want to get them to sign and say, yep, we're in, you know, we're in the program, and make it like really feel real to them that they're involved in something. Terms of everything's secured. And then we just want to be, you know, as I said, this sort of training on the whole thing to get them, you know, when this team's built, I've sort of said, I'll personally go and sit with the team and go through all the benefits. I'll spend a day with them, because that's hugely valuable to us. The quicker they get up to speed, they can literally, the great thing about agents is once they're bought into it, they've got a database of people they can just sit on the phone to for the next week. Just let you know, just engaged in this, we'll partner with this company, this, that, and the other. We've also got joint marketing activities. So if they're open to it, we can send out like co-branded newsletters or co-branded emails, you know, just like an introduction. Again, we can write all that copy and we can deliver it to them how they want it, or we can send it on behalf of them, but ultimately it needs to go to their database. And then you will get, I think you'll get a hell of a lot of deals from this. You know, I've got a few in the US signed up now as well. So, you know, people are biting at this. Obviously the results is the proof of it all, but I don't think the results are going to happen by just saying, "Oh, sign up." I do think that comes from us, which is why I'm hooking them all into Slack. I'm creating a channel for each of their agencies, putting all of the sales staff in the agency channel, a bit like your channels. And if they've got any questions, we're there on hand. If they want any marketing, we'll get it sorted and we'll ping it over, you know, and then we'll send it over. And it's kind of two forms. You can either do the full sale yourself and agree it, or you just introduce and we'll do the rest. Doesn't really matter, because I prefer they introduce to us because I think we know better what we're talking about. But some agents at the beginning, until they've built that trust with you, are going to be very cagey on, "Oh, well, I might give you a landlord and then you'll disappear off," and you know, that sort of stuff, because unfortunately that's what's happened so far in the industry so much. But for those that do buy into this, I've actually also started sending this to mortgage brokers that I know. They've got a lot of landlord contacts. They do a lot of buy-to-let mortgages. So I've sent it to them. Again, it's all extra revenue streams that they can benefit from, and then we just, you know, getting it out there. So start adding that into your repertoire of daily tasks, and you got a lot to do.
Exactly the same offering or proposal to mortgage brokers.
Yeah,
exactly.
The reality of it is, you could give 50% away, and you're still going to make a lot of money.
Does it have to be 20%? Is that just the figure that you found?
Well, no, I just think most people will go like very tight on numbers, like 10%, 5%, 300 quid fee, whatever. But like, you could give 50% away and you're still going to massively increase your business.
So this is all the property management.
No, rent to rent as well. There's two elements to it. So like property, you know, if you break the numbers down, so you've got, if we look at calculator out, my maths is normally quite good, but
So not good for agents who don't do lettings then?
no.
Well, not good for sale.
Well, it could be, because they you know, in fact, no, I stand corrected there. One of the companies that I'm working with in Dubai, who I'm meeting next week, they just do sales.
Yeah.
But they're going to have clients buying properties and then potentially want to run it as short-term rentals rather than, you know, the lead flow probably less, but
yeah,
you know, so you've got like the property management side of things. I think the average net profit is 3,600 quid a year, or 36 grand over the 10-year life cycle, because it is a bit longer, property management. So they're going to get, so they get 20% of the net profit. I think it's in the brochure. I think it works out about 270k over the lifetime value is what one property management deal is worth to an agency. Might be a bit less. And then obviously on the rent to rent side, you know, it's 500 quid on average. So they're getting, you know, 1,200 quid a year times 8 years. What's that, like 90 grand or whatever it is per deal that they bring on. So it doesn't really matter it doesn't matter what type of deal it is. It's the profit for you guys. Obviously, the way that the franchise is structured on the property management side, I think, you know, the deal is, you know, you'll get 5% on this structure. It'll be 5% of the net. Whereas on the other structure, it's 5% of the gross, but on this, it'll be 5% of the net, because we're already giving 20% away to the, so we're going to have to give 20% to the agent, and then we'll give the franchisee 5% as well of the net. And then, so that's pretty much just handover type stuff. This one obviously involves you getting them funded, getting them set up, agreeing them, and you know.
The property management side will basically, if we're talking to a letting agent, and their landlords want to do SA.
Yeah.
Or they're promoting them to do SA, then the landlord would have to set the property up as an SA.
Yeah.
So they would have to do all that work.
Yeah.
To get it ready.
Yeah.
And then we would take it on.
Yeah.
And then every month, the revenue varies on it. But it's not the same. As
Sure.
the season. I've not experienced it yet, but that I'm assuming that. So then on that basis, the landlord will still get what they're meant to get, but out of the 12.5% of what we're charging,
They get 20% of the net profit that we make.
right? Okay.
So you got to remember on the property management side, we charge for direct bookings as well. So because we are an OTA, so like obviously franchisees don't get charged that, but that we do. So property managements do. So in all, it works out about, we'll probably take anywhere from 17.5% to 22.5%, something like that. Of it's not fixed, it's not always on. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the direct booking game is getting stronger and stronger at the minute, and the length of stays is getting bigger and bigger. So I do hope we can switch the OTAs off altogether next year at some point. But yeah, it'll be 20% of the net profit to the agency after like our net profit that we keep as Luke stays for operating this. We'll then give 20% that way and 5% to you. You could, if your box clever, and again, think about your time on this. We do this in Dubai because it's easy, because labor is cheap, but I stopped it in the UK because it just wasn't efficient. But let's say you have got a landlord who does want to do it, but needs a furniture kit out.
Well, exactly.
And you can say, well, I'll do it for you for £6,000. It'll cost you £4,000. You might make £2,000 doing it. Just be careful you're not wasting so much time doing other people's setups. You've already experienced what it's like, but sometimes if you can box it off quickly and you've got the right processes, then you could add an extra revenue stream to your business by doing that.
But what about standards of property code? I mean,
Everything has to meet brand standards.
Yeah, because some of the landlords may have
Yeah, you just say it doesn't. You either need to do X, Y, and Z, or we kind of take that.
You have to go in. So what you're saying to the estate agent is that I would need to go and look at the property.
We just get pictures.
Yeah. Or
like
get pictures and say, right, this is what needs to be done if you want to join this program.
Yeah.
So if you do all that work, then you can join. If not, we're not interested.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest lesson I've learned over the last few years is that quality is more important than shit volume. Yeah. Because that is like this year we have had to do a full sort of brand redevelopment because the crap property we've got rid of about 100 owners this year, or 100 properties, because they wouldn't update them. The guests were constantly complaining about them. There was always issues with them, and it got to the point where it's our profile that gets hit with all the bad reviews, not theirs. Yeah. So it makes us look bad, and then it demotivates the hell out of the staff because they're constantly dealing with shit on the same properties time and time and time again. So we've had conversations with the owners and said, listen, you need to do this, 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 and this, or we're going to have to give you a month's notice. And they're like, oh, well, we're not prepared to invest and blah, blah, blah. Right, fine. See you later. That's been going on for the last 12 months now. We probably won't see the full benefit of that until mid next year, I would think, but we've definitely started to see the benefit of that in many areas. It's not worth taking on a property that's going to cause headaches. You really, like even now, the team are constantly firing stuff and can we rent this or can we manage this? And it's just like, it doesn't need brand standard. All you got to do is zoom in on the bathroom photographs and see that it's got mold all over the tiles or that there's cracks in the skirting boards, and there's things like that. If they're not fixed, they're just headaches. And it just demotivates everybody. It ruins the long-term viability of the brand with the reviews. The more reviews we've got, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd like to come off all these channels where reviews aren't that important, and I think we are moving that way. But still, it's much better to be a 5-star than it is to be a 4-star. And you've got to, and that also has knock-on effects. Like we have lost some management properties that would fit the bill, and they've gone on Airbnb and read a few bad reviews because of those shit properties, and then gone, actually, I'm going to choose another agent. So it is about really, you know, this brand. That's why I put the brand standard in about 18 months ago, because I could see that it was kind of happening. And it was our fault. We just took everything and ended on, like, I think anyone does at the beginning of any business, because you just see the pound signs and you think volume. But as we've refined the process and got better and better, we've got a lot more selective with the stock. And that will massively serve us in the future.
So on this referral program, how much work would you expect the fund or anyone producing to do? So apart from seeing the property, doing that, because normally you get, if you've built up a relationship with a estate agent, you become the first port of call.
Yeah.
So all those phone calls will probably come to you and go, now this is crap that's going on over here, or you're making enough money going on doing this, and you promised this, and it's not happening.
Well, I think, you know, I would imagine the majority of your interests are going to be around the rent to rent program, because that's where obviously the money is really for you guys. The management stuff, once they're into the management stuff, really there's like, you've just got to, like what we do, which takes a bit of educating. So say like one of the sales team win the deal, get them contracted up, and then it goes into the ops, and then they might start having questions. So if you're the one that's the point of contact, they're going to come to you. It's about that sort of, I don't deal with that now. We have a department for that. And I think it's tough to do, because you don't want to feel like you're just fobbing them off, but it is the right thing to do. And then eventually they just like will go into like Dora's owner liaison. So she'll then deal with the owners, and you know, everything's in a, you know, they quite often call and they're like, can you just talk me through this one booking on the thing? And it's like, well, no, because it's not urgent, but if you email it in, we'll get it responded to within 24 hours, because that's the process. And that helps us be more efficient, so that we can then be dealing with guests and dealing with the emergency stuff and stuff like that. So that's just probably a process from your side. But once it's been signed up as a management contract, realistically, that then goes into kind of head office, and then head office will just deal with it thereafter. That's, you know, I want things to be easy for you guys. On the rent to rent side, obviously you'll be setting them up, and you'll be the one that's effectively making the decision whether you want it or don't want it. So that's a different gig altogether, really.
For example, let's say I find ABC letting agents who are interested in this referral program, and I've talked them through everything and spoken about it and said, right, give us good stock, and we'll take over, or we'll manage it for you. This is how the program will work. Now, to then the couple of groups then say, right, ABC letting agent has been introduced by Jawad, so therefore, you know, everything that they send through is going to be channeled through me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, 100%. It's the same gig. I mean, it's 100% your financial reward.
Yeah.
If it becomes a point where they just start connecting with us and don't really, you know, need that individual in the middle, then that's just the way it is, and that's fine. You know, we've got enough staff to be able to say, yeah, okay. And once, in all fairness, like now, like we have landlords now that have worked with us for years. They know that, and same with the franchisees, like you don't ring us and say, I've got another property, you just go and fill the onboard form out. And then the team then get in touch, and they know that. So once the agency get used to that, they'll just know they go there, they sign the contract, they fill the form out, and then boom, we start the setup. So it'll get to that point. At the beginning, there is obviously education of this is how we work, these are the processes and stuff like that.
It's trying to be as hands-off as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can get them generated for you. You just have to maintain your relationship with them on a higher level basis than dealing with all the nitty-gritty.
So right now, like Dora's in charge of like all owner liaison, and she will probably move into kind of estate agency sort of liaison as well. Just to try and one single point of contact for now, for all questions, and then it just helps streamline everything a bit. But for me, it was I was actually in a queue at Disneyland when I thought of this. I was like waiting for the rides, and I was just like moving around, like, how can we get more stock? And I'd had quite a lot of good conversations in Miami with real estate agents, and I sort of said, well, I can pay you up front, or I can give you a deal, you know, because they actually get paid off the landlords out there. They don't pay, we don't need to pay to get deals, which works for us. So I was thinking, well, how can I make them choose me over anybody else? And then I also looked at just what we have offered in the past, like, you know, first month's profit or whatever. And, you know, but really there's nothing, you know, you want agencies, like everything in this game, the attraction to this game is the recurring revenue. Whether you're an estate agent, whether you're doing what we're doing, you know, whether you're just a landlord by themselves, it's that every month you wake up and you've got that money in your bank without having to do any more because you've got that unit. So obviously there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen, but in the main, the principle is like, if I can wake up for the next 8 years and get paid for that property that I signed up with them, that appeals to me. And, you know, if you can, if you also look at, you know, when we are looking at this in terms of, you know, and again, this is all in the kind of in the brochure, but, you know, what's the USP to the estate agent, right? So number one, you got a tenant within 24 hours. So if you're a landlord and you list a property and then next day you say, by the way, we've got your tenant. No, you can have some more properties, you know, and then you've got, you know, you've got one tenant relationship for all the properties, which means less staff. You know, I'm finding this now, like we, because of the length of stays now for our bookings, we don't need as many staff in the operations because we're turning less guests. It's fucking win-win. Make more money, you got less staff.
I think agents will probably see this as a competitive edge thing, won't they? Against other agents.
100%. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So this is like their USP of like why you should do this, you know. And again, you know, so they've got one tenant, they've got less staff. The landlords will effectively have more money because they'll be making more, so they can buy more property from the agency, or obviously buy it and then give it the agency to rent. And even if they come direct to us and give us it, it's still theirs because of the contract.
So 3 or 4 different agents in the same town, for example. You approach, but you sell the first agent on the deal. So he's got USP and that's the edge. He wouldn't really want us to go to the other agent. Have you come across that yet?
That's life.
That's the
first thing I would be doing is going to the other agent saying, do you know that he's just taking this on? You might also want to get involved in this.
What if it goes back an exclusive deal? Would you do that?
No.
No?
Because the only way I would do an exclusive deal is if they brought something like 150 to 200 units a year, and then say within that territory, you know. But on average, you're looking at about 25 units per agency per year. But there's so many upsides to the landlord for doing this. Not to mention no voids, no tenants, no lawyer fees, no possession claims, all that sort of stuff that we preach anyway, which they don't tell to the landlord. But now they've actually got an incentive to tell that to the landlord because they don't feel like they were ever going to get cut out of the picture. And that's one of the biggest things for these, because, you know, as you said earlier, you might do a deal with one landlord through the agent, and then the landlord comes direct to you and says, I've got 5 more properties or 10 more properties or whatever. Well, they're constantly in the picture here. The only stipulation that I think I want to add to the contract is if they don't bring anything for a 6-month period, then everything stops.
Yeah.
What I don't want them to do is just bring like 25 on and go, all right. Well, yeah. I mean, naturally you'd think they'll see the benefit of it and just want to continue doing it. But I think there needs to be a clause in the contract to say like, you cannot have, if you have a dry spell for 6 months. I know my dad used to own a franchise, and this is where the idea came from. And he decided to start buying stock elsewhere because it was cheaper, and he didn't buy stock from the franchise and they cut him off. So, but it was fine because he was getting it cheap and he'd already built his brand and stuff. But you know, he stopped using them because it's a better deal. What I don't want is them to, someone comes along with 22% and they go, oh, well, we'll start giving them all their 22. So if we've got like anything you've built up, if you don't bring us stuff to a certain volume, then everything goes.
Oh, okay. So
they've got to be incentivized to want to keep bringing stuff and not go elsewhere.
But would you try and tie them into a 2 or 3 year deal or something?
Well, no, I think you just, hopefully the incentive's enough. Yeah. I actually don't think there's that many companies in our space that have the right mindset to say, I'll give you 20%.
No.
Because most of them are very much in that sort of me attitude. and they'll be like thinking, oh, well, I'm only going to make like 6 grand this year. And if I've got to give like 1,200 quid away, then yeah, and that's good for us because, you know, we've got that different mindset and you know, we're kind of looking at it as a long-term thing rather than a short-term thing. But if you can get like, you know, if you can even get 5 agencies on board this year, bringing you 25 deals each, then it's going to massively change things for you. You know, I know the US side of things, I'm already getting ones like chucking like big blocks at us and stuff, which will eventually, you know, hopefully fall into the franchise portfolio. You know, does anyone want them? And the Dubai ones as well. Next week, I've got a few meetings with agency owners that I know already to sort of, I want to go through it in person with them out there because I think there's a lot of value to that. So, but it's a great way to stand out from the crowd. But as I said, just be a bit careful about where you, the finer details of it, because it needs to keep almost like our secret sauce, you know, so we can really get ahead of the game, get in with these agencies and work with them. I would imagine, like anything, you'll have more traction with the single owners, non-big corporation type agencies. Yeah, they're definitely going to be the ones that see huge initial value in it. But as I said, it's like, you've really got to work it. Once you've got that contract signed, that's just the start. The next bit is like working that relationship, you know, every week checking in, popping in, going through their stock with them, telling them what does work, doesn't work, which landlords would be a good fit, wouldn't be. You know, even crunching the numbers for them. So, you know, they will probably, you know, come back to your point about work. If they do want to do the property management side of things, initially they'll probably like, well, what am I going to earn? So like we normally do is just send the DNA screenshot. That's going to be your revenue. And worst case scenario, your costs are about 50% of that. If it's owned, it's less, but if it works on 50%, you're going to have a really fantastic result.
Let's start with a detailed question on the DNA data. Sometimes when you put the figures in for the properties and the bathrooms, etc., or the changes, the comparable evidence actually sometimes like a 2-bedroom place will generate more revenue than a 3-bedroom place. And because there's no, when you look down the list, there's no comparable for the 3-bedroom. I mean, it doesn't make logical sense that a 3-bedroom would actually generate less revenue than a 2-bedroom place. So how do you?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I've seen that a few times, like 1-beds to 2-beds and the 1-bed to make more. But again, it is the comparable data. I think what would be good on our DNA is if they could like open up like Rightmove, do 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, and like push out.
It's only about 5 or 6 or maybe 12 properties.
Yeah,
very little properties to give you the data.
Yeah,
and then it becomes really hard to say, be confident to say, well, that's what you're going to, you know.
Yeah.
The numbers.
I do think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, no,
Like, and I think, whilst I think you should always double check stuff. Like, I know we ran one yesterday in Kent, I think it was, and there was only like 3 comparables. So I initially was like, is there enough properties around that area? But then we jumped on their DNA and it was over 1,000. So you're like, well, there's 1,000 properties. I know I can make that work. So
I work for the London stock.
Yeah,
but the comparable, I looked at a 2-bedroom the other day, and it's like, I think it was 40K, and I changed to 3-bedroom and it dropped to 38K. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the comparables, there were comparables for 2-bedrooms, but there was only one comparable for a 3-bedroom. Yeah. And then that was rarely occupied. It had a very, the number of days were very little.
Yeah. I think you just got to, like, you've got like the quick method, which is their DNA, and then you've got your old school, let's go on Airbnb, let's work it out, let's put in the deal analyzer, all that sort of stuff, and see what the numbers come out at.
When you go to Airbnb, the numbers are quite obviously higher. I think it was 170 for a 2-bedroom, and then it was something like 250 for a 3-bedder.
Yeah.
And on that figure, then that AirDNA data would have thought it'd be at least 30% more.
Yeah. I mean, you know, at the end, it is just a software that works off data. And, you know, it does pull, I think whilst it gives you the comparables, I'm not sure if those comparables are the only bits of data that it's actually pulling into that rentalizer bit.
Right.
I think it's just showing you comparables, but I do know what you're saying about sometimes you can increase. It is a small percentage of time, most of the time that the money does go up.
What's the problem with them not having enough data? If you've only got one property in an area, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the sample, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't make any other.
Yeah. So, but in the main, it's pretty good. So I think, you know, the selling point, the reason you use DNA is because it's not just your spreadsheet, because anyone can make spreadsheet numbers up. So you're actually saying like, that's an official third-party tool that's trusted in the industry. That's what it's saying you're going to earn. And I also think that helps. Since we've started doing that, we've definitely had a lot less people saying, oh, well, you said it was going to earn this and you said it was going to earn that. And so that's what data says, you know.
Very useful thing else when I was talking to those guys in Devon. I was able to tell them which of their properties were viable, the SA properties that weren't.
Yeah. It is a good tool. But yeah, so does it, and everyone see the value in that? I mean, for me, it's huge. It's huge. Really.
About approaching different estate agents. So a big national chain.
Yeah.
Should they're split into franchises like we are.
Yeah.
Should I be approaching the franchise or could someone like you be going to the head of the national chain?
No, I think like anything, this is definitely like a personal relationship game. Like I jumped on a Zoom call with a kid from New York the other day, Tuesday night, I think it was, you know, just telling about it, telling about the company, you know, building up, you know, that. Because ultimately, what you've also got to build here, you know, and we talk about it a lot, is trust. They have to trust that we can deliver for their landlords. Yeah. So it's not just a case of we've got this amazing program, you learn loads of money. It's like why you can trust us to actually help your landlords make money and help you make more money. Yeah. And it's because the experience, this, that, the other, and you've got to then sell the company. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Like they might sign up, but then it's also educating about the process and the benefits, but also about us. And, you know, constantly just, you know, giving them stuff, sending them information, you know, pulling blogs off the website or testimonials or anything like that, you know, and just constantly sending the agency to sort of say, listen, we can be trusted. You can work with us. We do know what we're doing. And, you know, we will deliver the result for you.
You know, I used to work for IBM, and that's what we do. We rely on the strength of the company and the diversity and what it does and its reputation. And that's what I do with Capital Group. Yeah. But first question they're going to ask me when I go to the agent is, where have you done this particular deal before?
Where have you what, sorry?
Where have you done this deal before? Yeah,
well, in all fairness, like, I would imagine next week I'll have deals on this because we've been, you know, testing this out for a couple of weeks now. And, you know, we've already got agents that are working behind the scenes to send us stuff. We have had stuff sent as well. So we will have deals, but it's not really, this is almost like, it's not so much about this program. It's more about, the agency needs to focus on the landlord, not on themselves. Because if they don't, they'll never get any business over the line. So it's a bit like, you know, we're not focusing on what we can earn out of this. We're focusing on what the agency can earn out of it. And it's the same with the agency. They need to focus on what the benefit to the landlord is. And then it all syncs. So we have to help them focus on that benefit. And, you know, if they're wanting to know whether we can or can't deliver, then obviously we've got the website, we've got all the properties, we've got other, you know, all they've got to do is look on social media or Google the company and enough stuff comes up. So, so that is, I guess, where your role comes in with that trust building and that relationship building, like anything really. But, you know, view it as for every agency you bring on, you know, it's going to be worth, you know, I can't remember what the figure was, but 480K was it? I think it works. So for every agency you bring on a year, as long as you can get all the deals funded, that's obviously going to be your next problem. But, you know, I think we've spoke about, it is a lot easier to get money than you think. And now actually, you know, the lifetime value of it. You could pay someone 8% for the next 5 years to borrow